1/3 of American teens now have prediabetes, and no one's asking why. Let me show you how a so called healthy breakfast triggers mitochondrial damage, early insulin resistance, and lifelong disease. You'll never look at cereal the same way again. Hey everyone, my name's Marc Bates. I'm a metabolic health coach, and this is one of my highlights presentation. It's called Why Breakfast is Making Your Teen Sick, the metabolic collapse no one talks about. So let's get into the data. The standard American diet is creating diabetic teens. The CDC dropped a bombshell recently, saying nearly 1/3 of American teens have prediabetes. That's 8.4 million teenagers walking around with metabolic dysfunction. My immediate reaction? Well, concern, of course, but not surprise. I trust the numbers broadly with caveats. The CDC's methods rely on the NHANES data using blood markers like fasting glucose and HbA1c. These are robust tools, though prediabetes criteria were developed for adults, not adolescents, so there may be some mistakes there. What's more concerning about the statistic itself is the lack of urgency in response to such dire data. This isn't a glucose problem, it's a mitochondrial problem. So the cellular breakdown that happens at breakfast. Let me walk you through what happens when a teenager eats a typical American breakfast. Let's say frosted cereal with skim milk, a banana, orange juice, maybe a granola bar. The refined carbs rapidly convert to glucose. Blood glucose spikes well above 140 milligrams a deciliter within 30 to 60 minutes. The pancreas releases massive amounts of insulin to shuttle that glucose into cells. Insulin spikes are normal, but not this frequent or this high, especially this early in the day. Once inside the cell, glucose floods the mitochondria. High glucose overwhelms glycolysis, forcing excess pyruvate into mitochondria that can't burn it fast enough. The mitochondria convert some to lactate, push acetyl-CoA toward fat creation, and spill electrons from the electron transport chain. This generates reactive oxygen species, ROSs, reactive oxygen species, equal oxidative stress, which damages proteins, lipids, and mitochondrial DNA. When mitochondria face constant energy excess and oxidative stress, the insulin signaling pathway becomes blunted. The cell essentially says, "We have enough fuel, no more glucose, please." This is the beginning of insulin resistance. The cell is protecting itself from more energy, not failing due to laziness or genetics. But the same breakfast likely contains another poison: seed oils, canola, soybean, or sunflower oil in the granola bar or cereal. Okay, linoleic acid gets incorporated into mitochondrial membranes, right? And linoleic acid is a primary component in these seed oils, right? Weakening their structure and making them more fragile to ROSs. Research shows linoleic acid kills cells by producing ROSs and preventing mitochondria from producing energy. The breakfast also lacks protein, fat, and micronutrients. No leptin response occurs, right, which is your satiety signal, so the kids are always hungry. Ghrelin stays elevated, which is a hunger signal, so they're always hungry. This leads to cravings and mid-morning overeating at lunch, evening binge behavior, and just teens constantly raiding the pantry, eating more garbage. Repeat this daily and you get early insulin resistance, fatty liver, ADHD-like symptoms. We all see that. I've got teenage children. Prediabetes, mood swings, and obesity. All of it starts with what's marketed as a balanced breakfast. Why does this happen? Well, the system is captured by the problem creators. Public health officials continue recommending high-carb, low-fat approaches for teens. They're not unaware of mitochondrial research. They're incentivized to ignore it. Their training is 20 to 30 years behind the science. They rely on evidence hierarchies that favor decades-old epidemiological studies over modern biochemistry and clinical practice. The newer research on mitochondrial dysfunction, linoleic acid's role in cellular damage, and protective effects of ketones gets ignored because it doesn't fit the USDA pyramid model or food industry product lines. Many public health agencies receive funding from cereal and grain agencies, dairy boards, and plant based lobbies and seed oil conglomerates. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and American Heart Association have accepted sponsorship from General Mills, PepsiCo, and Nestle. This influence steers research funding towards safe questions, position statements away from vilifying seed oils or carbohydrates, and nutrition schools' curricula toward plant based dogma. The USDA dietary guidelines are reviewed every 5 years by a committee that's not allowed to question past recommendations. Any new science must pass through systematic reviews that exclude newer studies and disregard metabolic data that doesn't fit their model. They've rigged the system. Changing course means admitting that the last 50 years of dietary advice have been wrong, harmful, and a primary contributor to obesity, diabetes, and autoimmune epidemics. This would open floodgates to liability, lawsuits, and total collapse of public trust. The firefighters are being funded by the arsonists. Okay, so what actually works to reverse teen prediabetes? So when I coach as a health coach, when I coach families with pre-diabetic teens, I treat the guidelines as background noise and focus on biology-based interventions. The goal is cellular repair, not bureaucratic compliance. Phase 1 involves eliminating the top 4 drivers of insulin resistance: refined grains, sugar, seed oils, and frequent snacking. Just removing these shift many teens from 300 to 400 carbs daily to 80 to 120 overnight, which is actually very good. Within 2 to 3 weeks, we often see triglycerides drop, fasting insulin fall, and post-meal crashes resolve. Phase 2 rebuilds metabolic flexibility with targeted macronutrient goals: 30 to 75 carbs daily, which is getting us into that ketogenic range, 1.2 to 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Teens do need more protein because they're building bodies, right? And fats from eggs, grass-fed beef, cheese, butter, olive oil, and tallow because of all of the nutrients and the good fatty acids that are in those. So we're changing essentially back to what most of our grandfathers ate, or even great-grandfathers, right? I encourage time-restricted eating, starting with a 12-12 and shifting toward a 16-8. That's 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and then 16 hours off and 8 hours eating. No calories between meals, just salt, water, or electrolytes. The Build a Breakfast template includes 3 to 4 eggs, sausages or bacon, avocado with optional berries, or Greek yogurt. No toast, juice, or cereal, ever. This restores satiety signaling, reduces hyperinsulinemia, and cuts mitochondrial overload from glucose and linoleic acid. Phase 3 focuses on mitochondrial health restoration. At this stage, we see body composition improve without calories counting, energy rebound, clearer skin, better sleep, and more stable moods. I track fasting insulin, HOMA-IR, triglyceride to HDL ratio, and ALT and GGT scores for early fatty liver detection. Many pediatricians only look at A1C, but fasting insulin and TG-HDL ratio are earlier, better predictors of risk. The results I've seen: fasting insulin drops from 18 to 24 to 6 to 9. Triglycerides fall from 180 to 80 to 100 milligrams. A1C improves from 5.8 to 6.1, which is getting that near diabetic range, to 5.2 to 5.5, which is right where a teen wants to be. Mood, focus, and sleep strongly improve. Many changes happen without calorie counting and with less hunger. Parents are shocked by how quickly inflammation and fatigue resolve when sugar and seed oils are removed. Now, let's get into the realm of politics here. The policy changes that could save a generation. Individual coaching is a workaround, and right now it's probably the best that you have. right? Listen to me, help, ask me for help. To reverse the teen pre-diabetics epidemic at scale, we need systematic disruption. First, make fasting insulin a standard pre-diabetic lab panel. Prediabetes gets diagnosed after the disease process is well underway. Fasting insulin can detect metabolic dysfunction 5 to 10 years earlier than fasting glucose or A1C. Second, ban seed oils from all school meals. Linoleic acid directly impairs mitochondrial function and insulin signaling. These oils are used in nearly every processed school food. Third, end subsidies for ultra-processed carbs. Yeah, we're paying for junk food. We currently subsidize the problem. Corn, wheat, and soy are cheap because the government pays to overproduce them. Fourth, replace MyPlate with mitochondria supportive guidelines prioritizing animal protein, saturated fats, fermented foods, and low-carb vegetables. Fifth, integrate metabolic health into school curriculum. Kids learn about photosynthesis, but not insulin, mitochondria, or how food affects mood, energy, and fertility. The food industry will resist these changes with billions at stake. Breaking through requires using states and cities as wedges, building cross-ideological coalitions, targeting institutional weak points, shifting cultural narratives, and building parallel systems that demonstrate superior outcomes. You don't need to change everyone's mind. You just need to make it safe to question the old orthodoxy. So we get to the future we're creating. If we don't act decisively, the teen prediabetes crisis becomes the next social collapse vector. By 2035, right now, we're on target for 50% of American teenagers to be insulin resistant, many with fatty liver, high triglycerides, and early hypertension. Type 2 diabetes diagnosed by age 18 becomes commonplace. Teen onset PCOS, right? Depression, infertility will explode. Boys will show declining testosterone and muscle mass by mid-teens. Cognitive and behavioral disorders will surge with no one connecting them to breakfast. Diseases once seen in the elderly will become pediatric diseases. This generation will spend more years sick than healthy starting in their 20s. The healthcare system will be bankrupting Medicaid and school districts with metabolic treatment costs while managing massive symptoms and ignoring root causes. But it doesn't have to go that way. If we act now, 2035 could look different. Insulin screening becomes routine, seed oils disappear from schools, teens grow up strong, focused, emotionally stable, and metabolically flexible. A whole generation grows up knowing what mitochondria are, what insulin does, and how to fuel their brain. So, what can you as parents do right now? To every parent feeling overwhelmed by this crisis, you are not powerless. You are the most powerful change agent your child will ever have. You don't have to fix the system to save your child. You just have to opt out of what's hurting them, one meal at a time. If your teen is pre-diabetic already, this isn't your fault. You are handed a playbook full of lies about low-fat dogma, frequent snacking, and heart-healthy cereals. Food is your leverage point. You need real food, meat, eggs, butter, fruit, vegetables, real fat, not canola or soybean, fewer snacks, more meals, fewer grains, more protein. Okay, your kitchen is a metabolic repair clinic. Every meal can either inflame or heal. You get to decide within 2 to 4 weeks. Your teen can feel more energized, focused, and less anxious. In 3 months, you can see triglycerides drop, insulin normalize, and body composition shift. You don't have to do this alone. There's a growing community of doctors, coaches, and parents waking up to the truth about metabolic health. You are your child's advocate in a captured world. If your pediatrician won't test fasting insulin, ask why. If the school serves seed oils, pack a lunch. If the guideline says low fat, high carb, question them. No one is coming to save your child except you. That's not a burden, that's a gift. No, right? You get to be the pivot point in your family's health story. You get to be the reason they grow up strong, sharp, and free from disease. Don't try to change everything. Just change one thing and do it with conviction. Cook a protein-forward breakfast. Pack real food in their lunchbox. Sit down at the table together. Start the conversation. That's how revolutions begin. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the appropriate section here. If you need some additional help or directions on anything I've talked about, I've got more videos coming. I'll give more details, but ask, and I'll be more than happy to get it to you. Okay? And as always, this is a community. We're here to answer questions. If you need more information on something, let me know what you're looking for. We'll make videos for you and put them up. Okay, and please, if you haven't done so, like, subscribe, share this video with someone who might need it, right? And you'd be helping a lot of people, and we thank you because it helps the channel a great deal. Thank you.